Hello and welcome back to Recapped Movie. Today, we will review an American action movie titled The Equalizer. The movie starts with Robert getting ready for his daily job at the Home Mart hardware store. At work, Robert is adored by everyone as he is jovial and often sits with his coworker, Ralphie, during lunch. Robert helps Ralphie to train to become a security guard and he reminds him that he's supposed to be cutting weight if he wants to pass his test. Shortly after, Robert heads over to a diner where he often reads before going home and meets with a teenage girl, Alina. She sees him reading a book and asks Robert if the man in the book has caught the fish, prompting Robert to reveal to her that he hasn't gotten to that part. Not long after, Alina finishes her pie and leaves to get a cab. Meanwhile, Robert goes back to his workplace and his co-workers ask him what he does before he starts working with them. Robert jokingly tells them that he was a pip and makes some dance steps for them. Later that night, Robert goes back to the diner and meets Alina again. However, a vehicle soon stops in front of the diner and an obese man comes out of it. The man turns out to be Alina's client as she is a call girl and her pimp, Slavi, calls her to inform her about her new client. Although Alina initially refuses to follow the man due to his big weight, she eventually follows him while Robert watches on. The following day, Robert goes to the diner as usual and finds out Alina has bruises all over her face. He offers her his donut from work and Alina joins him at his table. She introduces herself as Terry and gives Robert a disc of herself singing. The two bonds and later leave the diner for a walk. While taking a stroll, a vehicle pulls up in front of them and Slavi comes out of it. Without warning, he slaps Alina and Robert moves closer to him to protect her but quickly finds out that Tavi, Slavi's driver, has a gun. Slavi then gives him his business card and asks him to call him if he needs other call girls before leaving. Later, Robert visits the diner again and finds out from the manager that Alina is in the hospital after being beaten badly. Robert immediately leaves for the hospital and meets with another call girl, Mandy, Alina's friend. Mandy leaves to get coffee, but starts to cry, causing her to overflow her cup and Robert walks over to comfort her. Mandy then explains to him that Slavi slapped Alina, but she hits him back, forcing Slavi to make a scapegoat of her by hitting her badly. She also tells him that Slavi threw battery acid on another girl's face to make her an example to others, reminding them not to ever question him. Robert brings out the card that Slavi gave him and stares at it before leaving for Slavi's restaurant. There, Robert offers him an envelope containing $9,800 in exchange for Alina's freedom, but he is laughed at by Slavi's men. Slavi then tells him that the money will be good to keep Alina for just 1 month, prompting Robert to pick up the money and decide to take his leave. However, he locks the door and observes the men holding weapons carefully before setting a timer on his wristwatch. One of the men attacks him and causes him to shoot Slavi in the throat. He then begins to fight with the men, killing and stabbing them one after the other, before moving over to Slavi's side to watch him die slowly. Following the murder, Teddy is sent by Slavi's boss, Vladimir Pushkin, a powerful kingpin, to investigate the murder and discover the killer. Teddy teams up with some corrupt cops in order to find clues about the killer. Later on, Ralphie notices that Robert is not at work and discovers that he is no longer coming to work. Not long after, he visits Ralphie at his mother's restaurant as Ralphie helps her after a fire accident. Elsewhere, Teddy is taken to visit a gangster, John, by one of the corrupt cops, Frank. While they talk, John insults all Russians, including Teddy, and Teddy hits him in anger. He continues to hit him in the face until he becomes unconscious while Frank kills the man. Robert decides to play baseball with his co-workers and Ralphie shows up in a security guard uniform, proving that he passed his test. Meanwhile, two corrupt cops, Peterson and Reamer, are seen eating in Ralphie's mother's restaurant and start to extort her for money, informing her that there will be another accident if she doesn't give them the money. On their way out, Robert meets them outside and tells them that he would like to report a crime. They refuse to listen to him, but Robert calls one of them personally and he shows them a video of them extorting a store and their confession to being involved in the fire accident. He tells them to return the money, or he will give the video to the media. Refusing to return the money, they hold him at gunpoint, but Robert beats them single-handedly and they return the money to Ralphie's mother. Meanwhile, at the Home Mart, a criminal comes over and holds the cashier, Jenny, at gunpoint, asking her to give him all the money in the register. However, Robert comes over and hands him the money, but the criminal also demands Jenny's ring, which was given to her by her mother, and Jenny tearfully gives it to him. Meanwhile, Robert does not react to the criminal's behavior as children are coming into the store but notes some details about him. He then follows him outside and also notes down the plate number. The cops are informed about the robbery, and Robert finds out that the man has made several robberies. Robert then leaves to get a sledgehammer, with a vengeful look in his eyes. The following day, Jenny finds her ring in the drawer and Robert returns the sledgehammer. Elsewhere, Teddy gets some information about Robert, but he is surprised to find out that Robert does not have any criminal records and no involvement in Slavi's death. Later that night, Teddy and Frank stay in their vehicle while one of their men tries to catch Robert in the diner. Robert figures out that he is up to something and asks him if he is waiting for someone else. The man then brings out his gun and walks toward him, but a truck pulls up in front of the diner, obstructing Teddy from seeing the diner, and Robert hits the man with his book, before killing him by smashing his head on the table. He then switches off the light of the diner and takes some pictures of Teddy and his men. The men immediately trail him home and Robert boils some honey to treat his injuries. 3 days later, Robert meets Vladimir at his house in Moscow. He is taking his bath in the bathroom and Robert switches off and, on the light, continuously before opening the sink water. Vladimir immediately leaves the bathroom but finds out that Robert has vanished after he tries to call his guards. Unknown to him, Robert has cut the circuit and exposed them. The naked wire touches the water, electrocuting Vladimir in the process. It turns out Robert has also killed the guards and he leaves for Boston. On getting to Boston, he is approached by Alina, who has been healed of the bruises and has gotten a real job. She thanks Robert for what he did for her and kisses him on his cheeks before bidding him bye. The movie ends with Robert in the diner, and he receives a message on his laptop asking for his help. Robert reads the message and replies to the sender with yes. That's all for today. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, consider liking the video and subscribing to our channel. It helps us a lot.